welcome to Awards Buzz. Thank you so much for joining me. As I mentioned, The Gilded Age is my absolute favorite show on TV, so this is a huge treat for me. Thank you so much. I wanted to start by asking you, you both work independently. You've garnered 4 separate Emmy nominations. How did you happen to come together for The Gilded Age, and sort of how is your working relationship different here than what it might be in the past?
Well, that's an easy one to answer. I mean, we came together because we're siblings, and yeah, we had an opportunity to work together, and this seemed like a great opportunity, because let me tell you, if each show is an hour or so, I think there's sometimes upwards of 40 minutes of music there, and when it all gets going, we have episodes coming in, we have to start writing, whilst maybe a previous episode has to be recorded with the orchestra, and the one before that is perhaps mixing, we're music mixing. So we're very busy, and we spotted an opportunity to work together on this because of the volume of work and the fact that we're both big fans of Gillian Fellows, and I think Rupert had worked with one of the producers, hadn't you, Gareth?
Yeah, I've worked with the production before, and HBO, of course, have been really supportive on everything for us, given us everything we've needed ever. Yeah. Really,
absolutely.
But we've been, I mean, we haven't worked together for, we wrote some things together years and years, decades ago, and we haven't written anything really since. And so it was good to get an opportunity to jump on, and we did Catch-22 with George Clooney,
yes,
together as well, and we're talking about something else for next year as well. So yeah, it's been fun to dip into playing together.
Yeah. Also from a logistical point of view, I'm in Los Angeles and Rupert's in the UK. It kind of means that we've got things going 24 hours a day. So while I sleep, he's writing. And the way we do it at the very beginning, when we were establishing thematic material and the tone of the series, the beginning of before we started scoring the first season, we spent time together around a piano working out how we were going to do this. And from there, I would work on something during my day and send it to Rupert overnight. I'd wake up the next morning, on my breakfast table would be some suggestions in what I'd done and what I'd sent him, and vice versa. He would have sent me some stuff. So we're able to collaborate in a way that was really productive for scoring something like this, which needed so much music. But we've had a lot of support from the showrunner, who right from the outset, it was quite clear that he loved music and really wanted to use music score to help enrich the sort of tapestry of characters that only Gillian Fellows can think up,
weave together. Do you find that you have similar musical sensibilities, or in what ways are you different, and how do you then maybe work through that? How does that come together?
Well, I think we had a unified vision for what we wanted to do with this.
It's an interesting combination because we have some similarities in the way we see stories and music, of course, but fundamentally we're different. So we bring different things. It's quite nice to be surprised by, if Harry writes a tune and I do or a theme and I'll do an arrangement of it, hopefully it surprises him a little because it's not the way he would have done it, and so you get used to that, and vice versa. If I write something and send it to him and he sends back his arrangement of it, it's not the way I would have done it, so it's lovely to hear that,
But we've kind of came to composing for TV and film in a similar way, and our musical education trajectory has been very similar. So I think we for sure understand each other, what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
I have to start by asking about the main theme for the show, because it's become iconic in my opinion, and also because it sort of it represents, I think, the larger elements of music for the show, is that it sort of starts as something and then weaves into something else, and then it maybe moves back, and it sort of encompasses I don't know, whimsy and sort of romance, but also this sort of powerful engine that's running through. So can you sort of talk to me about coming up with that?
That was we definitely, it's all to do with there is lushness and drive and power in it, but it was really all down to the Gilded Age. We knew what the titles were going to be, and you don't before they were done. So we wrote it, and then they animated and built it around the music. But we knew it was going to be glorious costumes. It was going to be money. It was going to be new power. There was going to be romance. There was going to be all sorts of emotions. So that was a great one, a collaboration process for us, because that was genuinely writing parts, sending it to your brother, and having them do something to it, give it a motor that you hadn't thought of, send it back to you, and you do something else with it. That was a great process. But we had a really good idea of the Gilded Age pictures that were going to be in the opening title, so we sort of drove it.
I think, Rupert, if I'm not mistaken, didn't we, because we were asked to do the main title for season 1 in the middle, when we were already in the 2 or 3 episodes into season 1, scoring the individual episodes. And I think when we were presented with the idea for the opening title, we had already written this kind of riff that drives the main title through, but in a slightly different context. And I think we took it then and realized that could be our main theme of it. So, and it's been fun to in season 2 to be able to let that evolve and take on a different meaning, as well as retain its original gist, which Rupert's just described. But we're able to use it in a darker way sometimes, and in a much more playful way, not always necessarily using it in the most robust driving way that you hear it in the main title.
Yeah, it's got some really useful motifs, musical motifs in it, just little rhythms and sub melodies that are really useful to use in other contexts.
Yeah, that's where
so
I
we
wanted
do mine
to go. That's where I wanted to go next. How does coming into a second season of a show, having established themes in season 1, I mean, you've spoken about how you have a theme for the Van Ryns and sort of new money versus old money. So then how do you expand upon that in season 2, and sort of what new musical elements did you bring in?
Well, I mean, if one looks at the characters and their trajectory during season 2, they're quite different. There are some great U-turns of some characters, and some characters come to the fore that weren't particularly evident in the first season. So we created some new thematic material for this season. But characters like, for instance, Ada in the first season, she becomes, I mean, that final episode is a bit of a shocker, isn't it? And her what she has to go through with her dating and then marriage and all the rest of it. So she whereas I think, if I'm not mistaken, we didn't have a particularly separate theme for her in the first season, did we, Ru?
No, we didn't. No, we wrote it for this season, and also their theme, her sort of love theme, well, her loss of love theme.
Oscar. So we were able to, but because the characters diversify and evolve, and there are new characters, we were able to write fresh material and incorporate that in the scores for season 2.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask, your Emmy submission is the 7th episode, which the 7th episode, speaking of Oscar, is really interesting because we sort of find out that he's been duped, and it's this sort of heartbreaking episode, really. Why did you choose that as your submission, and what can you tell me about the music for that episode in particular?
Well, there's a culmination of a few stories, and we've been wondering for Oscar, and his sort of breakdown, or his journey traveling around to find and then have his breakdown, was an epic one, and he's become one of the major draws for me in the series, really. Especially in the second series. In the first series he was great, but in the second series he's become a larger than life character.
It was a tricky one, choosing which episode to
it was,
only because we like them for different reasons. You know, I mean, the final episode is pretty great. I don't think we were allowed to put that one forward. I'm not sure that had aired by the time we had, anyhow, I'm not.
So,
But yeah, but you know, there are certain set pieces during the season that are have been so wonderful to compose for. You know, a couple of dinners with a Duke in there, opera scenes I loved, very very operatic. The
yeah, the
fireworks scene,
Duke's a new theme. Yeah.
great. Just like in season one when we had Edison and his invention. That was one of my favorites in season one. But so yeah, it's quite tricky too. I don't recall exactly what happens in episode 7, but I think we probably flipped a coin, said, okay, put this one forward.
Yeah, you touched on many interesting things that I'm curious about. How is bringing in sort of historical elements shape your score, given that, as you mentioned, music is a huge part of the show, and in particular, the opera was a centerpiece of this season. How did sort of maybe your experiences with the opera, with the Met in particular, maybe inspire the music?
Well, I don't know about that. It was the logistical uh, problem we had to solve because you had all the drama, people arriving at the opera house with the whole backstory of whether it was going to happen or not and who was going to be behind it, whether he was going to show up or not. So there was a lot of drama, just like you want to expect with Julian Fellowes' writing. But at the same time, there was something going on in the opera house. So it was quite a puzzle to find the pieces for. But it was really great fun to do, and we split up. We came up with a plan as to how we would do that. I think we pulled it off. I hope so.
Well, yes, you did.
Hmm.
And Peggy is such an interesting character because she has her own world, and it brings in sort of the affluent African American society, which we have not gotten to see very much in film and television. What did that mean to get to put music to that story?
That was great, actually. That was really good. And actually, in we did set it up in season 1. There was a nice little theme for her that we were able to, although she was still in the background, she was still the secretary and the friend. And now in season 2, she becomes a major character.
Yeah.
And then when we scored her getting into danger, we didn't really score the danger so much there. We scored her mistaken love interest that she has. So that was a choice to be made. We didn't over dramatize the treatment that she had when she was down south. It was more about what happens when they do hide and what happens between her and her boss. But yeah, she had an interesting journey. But she's a major character, she's a different character, isn't she? She's like Ada in this season. She's comes to the fore and she's telling a story.
And you've spoken about this a little bit before, but obviously the Gilded Age is such a massive undertaking and there's so much music. Can you talk a little bit about the scope of what you've had to accomplish? I think, somebody watching it at home maybe just doesn't realize. We hear the music and we hear how beautiful it is, but we don't really maybe appreciate how much time and effort has gone into it.
Well, the first thing is that we're really grateful to HBO for supporting us in that. Quite often in a series like this, one might find, and quite reasonably so, that there isn't a budget for to hire necessary forces. And with technology as it is now, it's certainly possible. It's not what we want to do, but it's certainly possible to produce a score that sounds like it's a real orchestra, but actually it isn't. But HBO came up with the idea that this was it needed, I mean, if you think about what the budget must have been on the hats alone in the season, alone the dresses, costumes, extras, goodness knows what. So they wanted to do this properly, and we that in itself presented an opportunity for us to be able to score it how we wanted to score it. But for every episode, for every note of music here, we had a really decent sized orchestra, which we recorded live. But from a logistical point of view, we might be recording episode 3 at the same time as mixing episode 2 and maybe going through what's about to come for episode 4 of a season. So it's kind of juggling balls, and that's why it seemed like a perfect opportunity to do something together. Because as I say, we Rupert being in the UK, he's kind of working while I'm sleeping, and vice versa. So yeah, that's how we were able to work it out.
Do you obviously we're ecstatic that there's going to be a 3rd season. I don't know how far you are in that process. If there's
We they haven't bothered us yet.
Oh,
other than-
really?
yeah, other than they've asked us to do it, so we didn't hesitate. But no, I think they'll start shooting this summer.
Are there elements musically that you would
we
like to explore?
It's difficult to tell.
Mm.
I didn't quite hear the end of that question. Elements.
Yeah, I said, are there elements musically that you would like to explore, characters that you would like to expand on?
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with Ada and, you know, the sort of power shift here, because she's not a mean lady.
Yeah.
She seems to be a very sweet lady, but it's obviously not sitting very well with her sister. So we'll see.
Do you have any of your own sibling dynamics that you maybe put into those themes subconsciously or otherwise?
That's not a bad idea. Maybe we'll tap into that. Yeah, early in season.
As I let you go,
it's been interesting work. I was going to say it with the sibling thing. It's been interesting working together. The more we work together, the more it's easier for us to work together, because it probably isn't someone on the planet who understands each other like brothers, but also with our upbringing and our musical background, we kind of have a bit of a shorthand now. But I guess we didn't at first, because we kind of old hands, been doing quite a lot of work on our own for quite a few years. So 3rd season, 2nd season, 3rd season, by the time we get to the 4th season, we'll know what the other one's going to do before we do it, I should think.
As I let you go, is there anything that I haven't touched on that you'd like to mention?
No, I don't think so. Other than I think Rupert and I are really so happy to be involved in this show because of the way that they're able to allow us to go about our business. And you know, it's a joy to be writing music to Julian Fellows's words. You know, his plots and his ideas.
Yeah.
They're so rich, and it's great fun to score.
Absolutely.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time. This was such a treat. And now when I rewatch the show for the 5th time, I can think about your score. And
well, the new ones are coming to you. I don't know when it will be, but certainly it's underway.
Well, I'm really, really looking forward to it. Thank you so much, and best of luck to you this award season and season 3, and hopefully many more seasons of the Gilded Age.
Thank you so much.